Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I have this incredibly brilliant thought. Wow, it is just beyond human reason. It's just maybe even possibly, if I could explain it at a level, it's maybe angelic and godly, almost at the level of God. Oh, maybe you haven't. But some people have this sense or think that they have this immensely and complicated and wonderful thinking. And they do, comparatively speaking. But when we look at God, we see a whole other level. Let's look at our text for today, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Isaiah 55, 8 through 9 says, "My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord. And my ways are far beyond anything you can imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." So although you may have a brilliant idea, you may have a brilliant thought, you may have something that's so thoughtful, so well thought out, so complete in its making, yet comparatively speaking, between you and your thoughts and God's thoughts, you're far off. And truth be told, God is the one that gave you those ideas or the thoughts. They probably sent those to you and hashed them out in your brain. So, because it says, the word says, every good and perfect thing comes from the Lord on high. He is a good God, and he gives you those thoughts. But when you start to try to compare yourself, or try to say that the way you think, the way you live, the way you operate is on the level of God, you're far, far off. God's thinking is immensely different. And so while you might complain about why things are the way they are, you might lament, and God will hear those. Because we look at that throughout the Psalms, we see David lamenting, we see Lamentations, and we see all these different scriptures that talk about, in essence, people going before God and inquiring of him and asking him questions and seeking him out. And yet still, I will tell you in the midst of that God's ways are so much higher than our ways. And so although we might want an answer, we may not get the answer we want to hear. The answer may be, I'm God and you're not. And that's a hard thing to hear. It's even hard for me to say. But he is God and we're not. And so sometimes we just need to revere God and remain with a question in our hearts. But know that he's God in the midst of all that. So his ways, his thoughts are much, much higher than ours. And although we may have many questions, we may think our thoughts are high-minded, they don't come or pale in comparison. They pale in comparison to God's thoughts. I'll leave you with that thought today. God bless you. Look forward to talking to you in the next video.